Hi, it's Brian Egger. I recently spoke with Professor Johann Bowen of Indiana University. Bowen's influential research paper on the ability of the prevailing mood on Twitter to predict the stock market created a stir when it came out. We asked him to explain how that paper led him to found a tech startup called Guidewave Consulting. This podcast includes highlights of that conversation.
WTI, we had a whole bunch of things that we were correlating it to. And so Weena came in and says, well, I found a whole bunch of interesting correlations, but the problem is I have to shift our mood data forward in time by several days to achieve a statistically significant correlation. Well, not to achieve, but to find one. It says that's the only point at which I find a correlation. And I said, well, hold on. So you've checked the contemporaneous correlation, but you've also shifted with a lag of like 1 or 2 days, and you found a correlation of our psychological mood measurements relative to the Dow, right? And that was at a lag of -1. And I first thought it was the opposite. I thought, the markets do well, people are happy about it. The markets do poorly, people are sad about it, right? And it turned out to be our data was suggesting it was the opposite. So that's when we start looking into that phenomenon a little more closely. Right. Now, it immediately became apparent, though, when that publication came out, that a lot of people were interested in actually using this for their investment strategy. People came forward and they were interested in licensing this technology from Indiana University, where the technology was really developed at. We later decided it was actually a more fruitful approach to simply found a startup and license technology from the university ourselves.
Right.
I think the core of the approach, and that's probably the tweets that you've been seeing, is a pipeline where we scan essentially the whole of Twitter on a daily basis. The system picks up on certain individuals, and that it tracks. We're talking about literally millions of people, so it's a really broad swath. It's not very selective. We just take out noise and bots and people who are who don't look like they're real people, telling us something about conditions on the ground, and it starts to analyze those tweets using our patented algorithm. So that's where the secret sauce. That's where the magic happens. It's like one of those diagrams. You've got Twitter. We take in the whole thing. We remove things that are obviously noise. We remove people that are obviously bots or not sort of physical persons, so to speak.
Right.
And then we pass it to a black box, which is the patented technology, and out come a series of signals. Those signals can be geared towards specific topics, towards specific communities, towards particular regions. But the crux of those signals are that they provide an indication of the psychological mood state of either individuals or entire communities along these 6 dimensions that we identified in the original paper. So that allows us, for example, to see whether a particular group of people, they could be defined by topic, they could be defined on the basis of their social connections, they could be defined in terms of their history on Twitter, they could be defined in terms of their regional location on the basis of their profile. But for that community, we essentially generate indicators of how anxious these people are, how happy they are, how energetic they feel, how confused they are, and these dimensions are very relevant to investors, right? If for example, the German investors are losing confidence, that might have very specific implications for certain investment instruments. So what we usually do with our clients is we provide access to the signals along a variety of interfaces. One of them is an API, which means that for business-to-business application, even algorithmic trading, people can tap straight into that API. We've got a dashboard where people can interact with the data themselves, overlay it with a financial time series, and perform the kind of quantitative analysis that they're looking for. And then a lot of it is really customized work that we do, where we've got, for example, advertising companies or security companies coming in and saying, hey, we've got this particular community that we'd like to track, and we would like to get a pretty comprehensive overview of their psychological mood state as it evolves over time, and where we would like to cross-link that data with particular individuals their propensity to experience certain relevant emotions, such as anger, because we're measuring anger and energy, hostility, etc. as well, and that can then be used as a pretty useful input to their own, for example, security strategies or marketing strategies. But that's more that's customizable work. But right now we're developing a sort of a universal dashboard where, for example, advertising agencies or security companies can go in and set up their own monitoring systems that will allow them to cross-link all of that data. So we're talking about, again, at the topic level, at the regional level, at the individual level, at the community level, people can get these kind of indicators